At Geosmart Asia 2015, GeoBiz caught up with Khairul Faizi bin Mohammad Taib. Khairul is a senior geoscientist with Petronas and has 2 decades of experience of dealing with geospatial big data.
Big data is basically a common issue in industry currently now. So for us, big data is not the main issue. It's basically the important part is how we are managing the big data. This is the critical part where it's basically the technology is keep grow up. So the type of data with a multiple kind of formats. And the critical part is basically the volume. It's more the critical part how we manage that big data with huge volumes. Then it's impacted to with our infrastructure. It's the database, internet links. This is basically the critical part you need to consider on managing the big data. In oil and gas industry, the big data is already common. It's a common issue. We need to manage accordingly to ensure that all the type of data we may managing accordingly with the volume, variety types, and also the velocity of changing of data, and also the complexity of data itself. This is basically related to our technology. So from day to day, we need to manage accordingly. I think that is basically the common issue in industry. Industry looks currently is more on the solution contents, where it's basically to speed up to managing information. If you know that a cloud technology is coming in, and also we are managing some information in a remote sensor, like automated kinds. Then the mainly is basically to lead with these requirements. I believe is basically how to make it that technology is friendly to user, make it cost effective. It's basically accommodating the requirement for whatever have project require on managing these informations. If you're talking about the petrotechnical, it's basically quite huge of what you call it definition. In petroleums, in the technical is basically 2 different things. In the data content to managing in the database, we have kind of different domain, different subject matters expert to manage it accordingly. In the current industry, is most likely focusing on individuals. So in the geospatial content, we look like this is basically in a separate development. What we have the spatial content to help that to integrate. So in petrotechnical, data set is basically quite a big challenge. How we need to think upfront how the technology and workflow within the industry can be collaborated and integrated. This is related to the IT technology and managing the information. It's basically helping us as a front end, as indexing informations, where is provided the information upfront in the spatial content. So this helps to visible to interface user with the existing information behind, with the engineering portion, with oil and gas portion. But its important part is basically upfront is the spatial content, where we can utilize map information to drag out, to figure out indexing information. Currently, we are familiar with Google. As an example, we are familiar with looking for food area. So this is basically related on the spatial content. So similar in oil and gas industry, we utilize spatial content information to identify the information behind it. like the wealth information, like the future development of platform. This is information behind all that. From that, it will be helping us upfront Geospatial as a front end interfacing. GIS is really important in the current industry where people utilize map as information interfacing and indexing. So this is implementation of the utilize of GIS. I believe it should be the standard industry in it. In the common people using the handphone with the location information, you can track down more information. And with that GIS tool also, user or implementer in technology developing the workflow for helping them to identify the information behind of Geospatial. And basically, GIS also help the user or demand. GIS is on basically what we call it, user requirement. I think the common information from the industry using map as a GIS tool to identify more detail of information in industry is basically map is become really important. In other industry also it's the same thing. It's come on that. Petronas is managing on oil and gas industry. It's all the activity starting from the acquisition, starting from development, production. We have do the acquisition, data collection from day to day. So if you can see the information, we have huge of database with different kind of domain, subject matters. Then we need to integrate to make it the data variables and also valid for other people. From that existing data is helping us internally to get this fast decision making and basically to help us on managing of cost effectiveness, because certain data we can reutilize because of demands. So I believe Petronas have put high efforts to consolidate the data from beginning there's involvement in oil and gas industry until now. We are starting is quite big of database on that. So that is basically is a continual effort because of technology is changed, data format is changed. Then we keep continue need to update that standardization, workflow, and also that's user demand.